There are people dying that don't need to be dying.
Vulnerability is showing strength, not weakness. Knowledge is power.
Prostate cancer testing now is a blood test, gentlemen. It is not other tests.
Oh, so it's not the cough.
I had never dealt with the fear of dying. God, I see both of y'all tearing up.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Hey guys, it's Lauren LaRosa, and this is BET Talks. Joining me today, I have some amazing guests who are going to educate, who are going to uplift, who are going to comfort some, who are going to change the world, I'm pretty sure of it. Joining me today, I have Mr. Mathew Knowles, businessman, professor, father of Beyonce and Solange. But today, he is here because he is a global ambassador for an organization called ZERO Prostate Cancer. They're impacting people all over the world. And here with him today, we have Courtney Bugler, who is heading the company and is here to also enlighten. We're going to get into some things today. I'm pretty excited about this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I love the fact that you say we're just having a conversation. That's really meaningful, that we just have a conversation about some things that might be uncomfortable.
I want you guys to give the background, how you guys got together and why you're here today.
At ZERO, we're the largest patient-facing organization for people who are impacted by prostate cancer. And we were so excited to get involved here with Mr. Knowles because we both have an interest in making sure that those who are at greatest risk, Black men in particular, know their risk for prostate cancer, know what to do about that risk, know about their family history. ZERO is launching the largest U.S. initiative to impact people with prostate cancer to help save 100,000 lives over the next 10 years.
Most people know me from music, being in the music industry. But most people don't know for 18 years I was in a medical arena, selling zero radiography in the 80s, which was a leading modality for breast cancer, and being one of their top salespeople, being one of the first Black to sell MRI and CT scanners, and then ending my career as a neurosurgical specialist with Johnson & Johnson.
I literally never knew that. To go from that career lane to then be a breast cancer survivor, walk me through how your mind is even comprehending all of that.
It literally saved my life, because imagine if we had a sheet of white paper and I had a red pen and put 10 dots on it. So one day, taking off my t-shirt, I see these dots on my t-shirt. I'm thinking my wife had bought some new t-shirts and it was thread. Second day, the same thing. So I asked her, did you buy new t-shirts? And she said, no, but for the last 3 evenings when I changed the sheets, there's been red dots of blood. Well, when I was in training, we had training on male breast cancer in the 80s. So I knew that that was a high probability that it was male breast cancer. Called my doctor and he kind of blew it off. I insisted that I get a mammogram. And sure enough, I had male breast cancer. That was the initial reaction, having surgery and then having genetic testing, something we call BRCA2, when I learned that I had variants, meaning as a man, I have a higher probability of prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, melanoma, and male breast cancer.
You were, blessed to have that background information, that education, to just know, like, okay, something's wrong, go to the doctors, let's push for it. You said your doctor blew it off. My mother, stage 4 lung and brain cancer survivor. We were in the hospital actively for a year and no one caught it. And I think that that's a common story that you hear, especially amongst families in our community. What are those early signs when it comes to prostate cancer? Are there early signs in men?
Genetics is one part of it, knowing your genetic risks and family history. Often in our community, we don't talk enough about medicine and family history of cancers and other type of diseases. That becomes very, very important that we have those conversations. Early detection has always been the key for me. The same thing I tell my students. In my classroom, there's 2 professors, me and Professor Google. Now you can just Google stuff. I do it all the time.
Sometimes they tell you stay away from WebMD though. They tell you WebMD will scare you.
That's why it's important to have advocacy organizations. So you can go to our website, zerocancer.org, and there's an entire section about what's my risk. Everybody needs an advocate.
Yes.
Everybody needs somebody to push them. We're both breast cancer survivors, actually, but my dad is living with prostate cancer. Knowing that family history, like, I still have to push him And that's why some of the things that we're doing with our initiative are really important, because we have things like patient navigation. So this initiative is going to make it so if you need help, you can call us and we will help you get through the healthcare system.
The initiative that you're talking about, the $20 million Blitz the Barriers initiative, research is really important in this, in what we do. So it's advocacy and having your website. How does that money allocate to different things?
Imagine you hear the words, you have prostate cancer, and your world changes. And you were freaking the hell out. What this initiative is going to do is going to enable you to call someone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's going to enable in some of our pilot communities that within 48 hours of being diagnosed, someone from Zero will call them proactively and say, hey, how can we help? You can call one of our navigators on the phone and say, hey, you have a doctor's appointment? Put me on speaker. I'll join you in your doctor's appointment and I'll help you ask those questions. These are the kinds of things that we are going to be launching with that money. And we know that that means that more people will be screened that need to be screened, and those who are diagnosed are going to get help navigating that system, not just their medical care, but their emotional care. We actually have the largest support groups in the country for any cancer. We have 160 support groups around the country. People who have been there and have walked on that road with you. I often say doctors might save my life, but it's my community that I found in this that saved my soul. And that's just as important. There is a lot about prostate cancer that is full of stigma. You know, it involves parts of their body that there are a lot of people that don't even know where their prostate is and what it does. And we're really trying to remove the stigma and get people to just talk about it, because that's the first step.
Knowledge is power. I've always thought knowledge is power. How do we inform and motivate and inspire people to really understand not just prostate cancer, but also cancer in general? And part of the initiative is really going into the community, to the barbershops, to the fraternities. Most people don't know 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will get breast cancer. And they certainly don't know 1 in 8 men in our lifetime will get prostate cancer.
I get so fired up because the first time we talked, he said, okay, so you had breast cancer, I had breast cancer. Man, you see pink everywhere. October is full of pink. You got mixers and rulers and scissors, everything turns pink. He's like, when do things turn blue? And I said, now you're speaking my language, which is why after years of working in breast cancer, I came over to this side because I was like, there are people dying that don't need to be dying. And part of the reason that they're dying is because people are not talking about it. They're not sharing their stories. They don't feel safe or comfortable. So what we're hoping to also do is make it okay to tell your story.
I've always said every time I walk on a stage to speak that in my vulnerability lies my safety. I always use those words.
That's good.
So I think when we become vulnerable and we share, it takes also the energy away. I would suggest that we just have that conversation and become vulnerable to talk about it.
I know when I was diagnosed, I told everybody and everyone, and it made people in my life really uncomfortable.
At the moment when you were diagnosed, you did?
Oh, I told everybody.
Oh, wow, you were
I don't have a lot of boundaries. That's probably a discussion for a therapist, but like, I came from a family that had a lot of boundaries, and they did not like that I was sharing all the information and all the things. But it was in that then people would find me and say, I have no idea. And oh, because of that, you know, I went and had a conversation. But I also grew up with cancer in my family, as you did, right? So that's the one challenge, is that there are some families that do have a lot of cancer in their background, but they don't talk about it. We talk about a whole lot of other things in our lives,
don't we?
But we don't talk about our health all that much. And you're gonna save someone's life by telling your story.
When I was a kid, I remember so vividly my grandfather just screaming in pain because he had prostate cancer, to the point my mother wouldn't let me go over there anymore. My dad has 5 brothers and 4 of them died with prostate cancer. Last year, my PSA numbers, which is an important number for men to know, they fluctuated. And so I had a biopsy while everybody was celebrating Christmas. 2 days later, I had a biopsy for my prostate, because I know the value of early detection. If there's anything you get today, it's the power of early detection. And that's the key.
Mr. Knowles, you've given the world Beyonce, Solange, you're giving to your students every single day, you're here now giving to the people. You know, I know firsthand that when you deal with something like cancer and getting through it, it may change or alter just how you think about legacy. Did that change what legacy looked like for you?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, to be able to give back and share my story, hopefully, changes my legacy. I look at life different today. You know, a lot of people say after 5 years they're cancer-free. I never say that.
No, I don't either.
I say I'm cancer-free today. I don't know about tomorrow. I live life as if I'm cancer-free today.
One of the things too that people don't think about is just financially how it can impact a family, because people might have to stop working. Caregivers, your money is a bit different when you go from a job to a caregiver salary. What are those conversations like when you guys are beginning to have them now with the people that you're helping?
Yeah, so one of the things we're really proud of at ZERO is we have a program called ZERO 360. People can call in and they have case managers and they'll help them navigate, especially those financial challenges. I need to get insurance, or I need to get something approved, or I'm having a problem with a copay. And one of the things we're working on in Washington, D.C. is eliminating copays and coinsurance for screening. Years ago, they passed a law as part of the Affordable Care Act. So if you want to get a mammogram, you don't have to pay a dime. But for prostate cancer screening, you still have to pay.
The men barely even want to go, and then they got to pay. They're definitely not coming up off the money.
So we try to remove all of those financial barriers where we can. And then, of course, we've got some programs to help that.
Cancer doesn't look at how much money or age or race. And I know a lot of people who have that financial stability that just didn't go and get tested.
Right.
Like, I just want to be real about this.
And that goes back to, like, when we talk about zero, it's like zero prostate cancer. Is that really possible? And for us, we really think about it as zero stigma, because really the stigma is the first problem. The stigma against talking about it, the stigma that you might have against going to the doctor, stigma and bias that happens in the healthcare system. But then the other part of zero is zero barriers. So how do we remove all the barriers? And some of that is the barriers to information, the barriers to access. What we also know is that in the Black community, prostate cancer looks a little different. There is something different in the biology of it in Black men, and they're still trying to figure some of that out, but that's why they're diagnosed a little bit younger. They're more likely to be diagnosed with an aggressive disease, which is why early detection is so important. If you were diagnosed with prostate cancer today and you're like, okay, what do I do? You know, you can call ZERO and you can be set up with this huge network of support groups. You can get assigned a one-on-one mentor, like someone who's literally gonna walk you through it. It's that power of someone to be a part on that journey with you. I think that's one of the things that we hear over and over again is people don't take that community for granted once they find it.
Mentally, you know, you deal with things differently once you go through a cancer battle, because it's something that you have no control over it. What was the biggest mental battle, like uphill battle that you had to face? And how does that in turn now change how you coach people in their life after their diagnosis?
My cancer was right before COVID. So imagine getting diagnosed and having surgery right before COVID. So my reaction is I didn't want anyone to come to our home. I didn't want my wife to go out ever. I was taking my temperature 20 times a day, literally, to the point that I had to call my therapist, who I hadn't spoke to in years. And I said, you know, something's wrong. I can't control this. And he shared with me that I had never dealt with the fear of dying. When he told me that the first time, that really brought something home for me to understand that. Lifestyle changes also is part of this. You know, God, I see both of y'all tearing up. It's okay. Lifestyle changes, I've lost, 20 plus pounds. I don't eat like I used to eat, meat and, I eat a lot of vegetables now. And, the mental part, my relationship with my wife is better than ever.
For some people, it's the opposite.
My marriage has thrived after cancer.
You say that it is thrived. Is it you guys are like closer now?
My wife went through trauma 6 months before I was diagnosed. Her sister, who was 47, 48 with 3 kids, died of breast cancer. So can you imagine your sister just died and now you're finding out your husband is diagnosed? It just brought this closeness, this love, this sharing, this vulnerability that we didn't have before.
There's something powerful in facing the uncontrollable.
Together.
Any of those sort of cancers that involve the body parts that are a part of intimacy.
Exactly.
It can change relationships, and that's where kind of communication and being vulnerable is important. It's interesting that you said, like, I'd never worried about dying. I actually didn't think about dying until I was almost a year out. I was at a breast cancer event with some of my friends, and we went to this thing that was like this memorial tent, and I came out and all of a sudden I was like, I had like a panic attack. I go, holy people die from this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I start like freaking out. And my friends who I were with, they were like, yeah. And I was like, wait, did you think I was gonna die from this? And they were like, we thought about it all the time. I was like, well, I'm glad you didn't share that with me because I didn't have time for that business. When I was diagnosed, I was writing for television and I was in my 20s. It was almost 20 years ago. I didn't know anybody my age who had had cancer. You know, I looked at all the things and they all looked like my mom and my grandma. And I was like, where are my people? But that was also the first time where I found the power of community. Like when I found some of my people, I still refer to them as my pink mafia, that was when it felt like home to me. I was like, oh, these people get it. And that's the one thing that I'm really proud of at Zero is we provide that community for people. You know, when you can reach out and find somebody who's been on that road with you, it helps immensely because they show the way. They show how you can live afterwards. They show how you can navigate the challenges.
Most guys I know, they want to whisper. You know, I have to too. They don't want to say that they had prostate cancer or any type of, problems, enlarged prostates. They want to whisper. And I'm glad you said something key. This is not just for older men or breast cancer for older women. These are diseases that young people get.
They tell you there's these certain ages when you should start going to get scans and tested for all these different things. But like you said, you were in your 20s, you were probably like starting your dream career. You're not thinking about that.
Nope.
So what's the younger ages? Like what are our alerts?
If you have a family history,
Right.
across any cancers, you should start getting screened for that 10 years before the person in your family was diagnosed. When it comes to prostate cancer, especially if you are at higher risk, and people at higher risk are veterans, people with a family history, and Black men. What they say for people who are at higher risk, that you really should be talking to your doctor around age 40 to get that baseline PSA, and PSA is a blood test. Prostate cancer testing now is a blood test, gentlemen. It is not other tests.
Oh, so it's not the cough.
No, it is not. It does not
Because
have to be.
that's what everyone talks about and
That's
jokes
what
about.
everybody
I'm glad
jokes
you brought
about.
that up because that's what a lot of black men think, that it's been overtime, and that's not what it is anymore.
Talk to me about how you counsel men through the vulnerability and why is that even important in that? Like, why shouldn't they be tough through this?
Well, for one thing, we've been conditioned as men to be tough. All those things in childhood. You can't cry, you're weak if you cry. That's why I always say, in my vulnerability lies my safety. You're safe when you share and become vulnerable and say, I'm frightened, to say, I don't know. That's strength. See, we look at it, I think, the wrong way. Vulnerability is showing strength, not weakness. Knowledge is power. I've always taught my girls and my students, when someone says a word that you don't understand, some people won't say anything. They won't say, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Right.
That's being vulnerable. That maybe I don't understand, maybe I don't have all the answers, but I'm gonna seek help and ask for help. That's being vulnerable.
That's not an easy place for men to get to, oftentimes.
Change is never easy. The only people I know that really like change are babies. They like their diapers changed.
You on a roll today.
This is what I do.
You are on a roll today. A lot of times when people think of cancer, they think it's like end all be all. But you guys are sitting here with me. My mom is alive and kicking, and she is kicking. Share some success stories of people who, they're on the other side of this.
That's almost a 99% success rate if you find any type of cancer early. So again, it's reinforcing the importance of early detection.
And I think, as somebody who is an almost 20-year cancer survivor, who literally did not think I was going to see my 40th birthday, I had a son after cancer. I've actually lived almost more of my life after cancer than I did before it. Cancer is something you cannot control, right? For somebody who tries to control everything, that is a hard lesson to learn. After I was diagnosed, I purposely went and did things that scared me. To me, it was really important that I could show that cancer did not have me forever. That all the things that I still wanted to do, I was gonna do. I'm gonna look at things that are hard and I'm gonna do them anyway, because we have to. It's like sometimes when people are like, oh my gosh, you're so brave. Well, when you have cancer, you don't really have a choice. Like, that's just what you gotta do, right? And it probably made me a little less scared of things because, once you face that, you're like, okay, we can navigate it. And what we see at Zero is we have all of these great volunteers and mentors, and many of them are 10, 20, 30 years. People who have been there. They are still living large and they are causing trouble. So that's the point, though, is that people do live with cancer, and knowledge is power.
This conversation right here, I feel like people are gonna walk away with a ton. I started this by saying you guys are gonna save lives, and I'll end this by saying you guys are definitely gonna save lives. Through the work that you guys are doing with Zero, and people will be able to see the other side. And I know. So thank you guys for what you're doing, and thank you for joining me today in conversation.
Thank BET and you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you.
Health is really, really important. You can have all the wealth, you can have all the fame and fortune, but let me tell you, if you have bad health, it means nothing.
I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.